What was your longest karmic relationship where this dynamic presented itself?
Oh, probably like 18 years.
18 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 18 years as in 18 years?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
You got the sweetest places, moon faces, moon spaces. Oh, you got the sweetest moon faces, moon spaces. My flesh and bones for alright, your pleasure waits. It's mark my time, you give your time. Color sky, horizon, sweet. You're known, yet it's all we see.
Greetings, beloveds. Welcome to Floral Moon. Today we have a special guest on Soulful Sessions who's going to discuss their 18-year karmic relationship. They're going to talk about how it all began, the roots, and how they ended up eventually escaping this karmic bond. So stay tuned to learn how he did it and how you can change your life too. Now, I appreciate you, Michael, for sharing your story and being open here today with us. Before we get started, I do want to say we are concealing his identity just to respect his privacy. Now, as we develop and grow in our own interpretations of what love is, I think it's important for us to have open discussions on how we can break cycles and patterns that keep us in any sort of karmic loop. So let's hop right in. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here and speak with you today.
Of course. So are you currently single or married?
I'm currently single, and I've had several relationships in my life. I've never been married, and still trying to, I guess, figure out the whole relationship thing from the standpoint of figuring myself out as well.
Okay. Totally. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm in my 50s. I'm a professional. As I mentioned, I've never been married. Been a bit of a workaholic maybe as well. And as we mentioned earlier, struggling to really define a healthy relationship.
So, have you noticed any sort of pattern with your relationships, and why maybe it's been difficult sustaining healthy dynamics within your relationships?
The toxicity in that is not allowing room for my own growth to get my own self out or to speak my own truth.
So, to speak your own truth, very important, but also to live in your truth, right? I think it's a matter of looking at why you have this propensity, right? Why we all have this propensity to seek love in the way we do and where it truly stems from. And for you, I think you're discovering that now, where it's like you talk about your relationship with your father. So could you take a moment to kind of take us through how that could possibly relate to your love life?
Sure. Certainly a lot of our own issues stem from childhood, and for me it was having an overbearing father who really told me what to do, where I lost my sense of self and I lost my own inner child, so to speak, in the adult parent-child psychological framework paradigm. And then relating through the parent only of what I should do and where my overbearing father stifled my own inner connection to my inner child, and my knowledge of what it is that I want was replaced with what somebody outside wanted, whether that be my father, or then after that in relationships where I put them first in an unhealthy way, where I don't speak my truth because I'm not in touch with my own inner child or own inner intuition or knowledge of what it is that I want.
Beautiful. That makes sense. So anytime you get into a serious relationship, it's like that is your default approach to connections, in large part, maybe not all the time, but...
Well, the default approach is not knowing my own desires. The default approach is not knowing my own desires and
pleasing the other person.
Pleasing the other person, yes.
Before yourself. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So today, as you begin to turn over this new leaf, what are you learning, and what can you leave those watching with as far as, the lessons that you've been learning throughout these karmic relationships and situations?
One sense that's easy is we should put ourselves first, in the sense of not being selfish, but in terms of we have to heal ourselves. We have to make our own cup full before we can enter into a healthy dynamic with somebody else. Otherwise, we will be filling each other's holes, which can become a codependent, toxic relationship, like two pieces of the puzzle that snap together but aren't truly meeting on equal terms, and they're kind of caught together because each one is filling each other's hole of things that we haven't worked on for ourselves.
Beautiful.
So in essence, it's really having to work on yourself.
Yeah.
That's where it all starts.
Yeah. Self-love, self-worth. Where are you with those things right now? I know you're progressing along your journey, so where do you feel you are now, and what have you done to really make that migration?
On my journey, I think it begins with knowledge and understanding and awareness. Once you're able to step back and see and acknowledge and become aware, then you're able to start changing. But until you can see what's truly happening, it's difficult to change, because it's like wandering around in a dark room looking for the doorknob to get out. Unless you first turn the light on, which is awareness and understanding. Once you do that, then you can see where the door is. You still have to go through it, but then you know which direction to go. Wow. So starting with the awareness and understanding, and then working on yourself from there.
That's awesome. I am so proud of you. That's really awesome, Michael. Truly. So are you dating now?
I've been on a few dates. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm dating per se.
Okay. And what was your longest karmic relationship where this dynamic presented itself?
Oh, probably like 18 years.
18 years?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 18 years as in 18 years?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So, and you eventually freed yourself from that situation? Like, how did you break out of the karmic relationship that was 18 years?
It's a process that started with first frustration, and then trying to escape, and using all different means to do that.
Like what different means?
Mentally means, in terms of substance abuse, or addictions in one way or another to help you check out mentally, so that you wouldn't have to deal with that. And then eventually wanting to change, and that really starts the process. And as I mentioned, it's, I think, getting help through others, whether they be spiritual guidance and talking with people to be able to help illuminate and again become aware and create an understanding. And then once you have that motivation and you felt so crappy for so long, you put those together and that helps the wheel start turning.
What kind of, so you said escape as in substance abuse. Could you go deeper into what that was? What were the substances? What was the escape route for you within that?
Really mentally checking out, where I said, finally, I don't care anymore. I don't give a crap. My life's over. It sucks. It doesn't matter if I go out and start doing cocaine or get drunk, and it doesn't matter anymore. So why, if I'm already dead, all those things will just help drown out any other stuff that makes me feel aware or feel alive at all, because the pain was too great. So why not just go check out?
What is your relationship like now with your father?
My relationship with my father is certainly better to some degree. I wouldn't say that it's rid of some of the overbearingness. Certainly as we age and you look at your parents and they become more mellow. So from that sense, it's better, yet I think that overbearingness is certainly still there. My own truth is still very difficult. The dynamic with my father has certainly shown up in my relationships, in that with my father, I wasn't able to stand and be myself and be in touch with what I wanted and speak on what I wanted. And so in my early relationships, I showed up with that same dynamic where I was constantly looking to please them and wouldn't speak up for my own needs. And then on top of that, there were issues that would create a codependency as well, which are, I think, two separate issues, but they can be intertwined.
Okay, so cocaine, alcohol, and just escaping in your mind, really. So what was the lowest point in your longest karmic relationship? What was the lowest point you reached?
Doing things that hurt her, that I wasn't proud of, that because I was trying to escape. By not putting myself first, I ended up putting her last, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
It's rather than standing in me, because I was so trampled, I didn't care anymore about anything else and ended up trampling her and hurting somebody else, just because somebody else is, again, human and on their own journey and has their own issues, and maybe you had a karmic relationship with them or an unhealthy relationship with them, does not necessarily in and of itself make them a bad person. It's I think treating yourself poorly and then ultimately treating somebody else and the other people around you poorly that they don't really deserve. Standing in yourself is good, but being selfish is not. That's not compassionate or kind to others.
So even when you started to devalue her and put her last, as you say, did you still somewhere in there have love, or what was the connection, the light of the connection at that point, if any?
Certainly still love, absolutely. And that's maybe an ironic thing, is that you can still choose to want to be with somebody, or the relationship doesn't work, but still care about them. And sometimes our minds need to make things black or white. It is this way or it's that way. when in reality, things in life can have a dualistic nature. Actually, they most often do. And you can feel both things at once, that this is a bad relationship, but yet still be compassionate for the person.
Mm-hmm. And when you eventually escaped, and without needing to utilize alcohol or any substance abuse, when you broke away from this relationship, how was that? Was it challenging? Was there a back and forth? How did that all happen for you?
It's excruciatingly challenging, and you feel completely like crap. Take any normal or even healthy relationship where it doesn't want to continue, and then add in all the additional dynamics of maybe a karmic or unhealthy or certainly codependent relationship, make it seemingly impossible to break away, because you don't have perspective, and all you have is that mentality of that codependency that's filling you. And in a way, by breaking away, even though at some level you understand and know that you should, the rest of your being is in that codependent part, and it's screaming that you shouldn't do this, that you're going to die if you don't. So to pull out of that is very difficult.
Wow. Yeah, I could imagine. So moving forward, we can come out of that, all right? You've been out of this karmic relationship for how long now?
Almost 2.5 years.
Okay.
2-3
wow.
years.
And do you still talk with your karmic partner or your ex-karmic partner? Do you guys still have some sort of relationship to this day, or how is that?
Yes, I do, and it stems from two things. One, I guess on my part, still feeling a sense of responsibility and caring to make sure that they were going to be okay, and it took a while to be able to do that, setting up proper boundaries so that you didn't slip back into that I didn't slip back into that kind of karmic bond or that codependent relationship. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's still some sort of connection, but it's out of caring for her. So in a sense, perhaps she was more codependent on you than you her, or that's just kind of where things ended, where she may have not been on the same page as you as far as the codependent connection is concerned.
I think that's a true statement. Yes, absolutely. I think maybe my codependency was a little bit different, and maybe more of my own issues, not being able to speak my truth and speak up when I wanted to say, hey, I don't want to do this, but instead I wasn't able to. So I went along with that, and there's still a part of me that felt bad if I didn't please her. The independent part for me was not being able to speak up.
What was that like when you had that first conversation, or when you first started to initiate the breakup? What was that like? Was it explosive? Was it just...
My actions became such where my body just couldn't be a certain place. So I would become more cold. I would turn away. I would want to spend time anywhere else, frankly, except with her. Mm-hmm. So it began more than 10 years ago, more than 10 years before, 2.5, 3 years ago, trying to get out of that and finding different ways. And again, my analogy of being in the room in dark lights and not knowing where the handle is, I was desperately trying to find the handle by doing things in one way or another to try and get out of that. And they weren't successful because I didn't have the awareness, understanding, the spiritual guidance, having somebody to talk to in a knowledgeable sense to help guide me, to help turn on that light. So I kept groping around in the dark all the time. So that breakup for me began a long time ago, began not too long after we started going out. Mm-hmm. And so in that sense, the breakup for me was already there. It was more so dealing with the reaction from her rather than my reaction.
So what was the reaction like from her?
Absolutely horrible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yelling and screaming, and basically just horrible pain, which then I can feel, and then I also feel responsible for, which makes it even harder. Even though I was there mentally, that makes it 100 times harder when then you feel like you're responsible and you see the other person in pain. That's very difficult.
So was there any fidelity or infidelity during the span of this 18-year karmic relationship?
Absolutely, and tried to find relationships where I could move on. In one sense, I lived in a dualistic world, one where I had moved on already. So I was trying to live that world and find somebody to love and to have a connection with. But yet then every so often I had to go back to this other world. So I was in this very dualistic nature. I was split in half, where I had almost forced myself, I'm in this world now, I have to live this way. I want to live this way and move forward and heal myself and move on and find other relationships. But then I was hit in the face with the reality of that I wasn't every so often. Every so often I'd turn around and I was chained back in this other place that I didn't want to be in, this dark room. Where part of me is still desperately trying to be in the light and move forward and live and wanting to live a life and be with somebody that you have a connection with and that you love.
Yeah. So you've met with the light at the end of a long tunnel here. Not necessarily immersed fully in it, but you've made contact. With that, in the present moment, have you made any adjustments to the relationship that started it all, in a sense? This dynamic that you are, or this lesson that you're meant to grab a hold of with your relationship with your father. Have you gotten to, this is the root. Have you done anything to the source, to the root of this condition in order to see it show up in your relationships?
The relationship with my father, I started to work on that and speak more of my truth. Even 7 to 10 years ago, we had very little, and still have very little time together. And a while ago, and I'd use those moments every so often to get closer to fully expressing my truth and talking about more things. Absolutely. I think recently, just because of other circumstances, I've not had that time available to do that, so that's slowed in that sense. But certainly beginning many years ago to try and work on that with him. Even before I completely understood the framework, I felt that was important in some way within inside me.
So the lesson in all of this for you is what?
The lesson in all of this is focus on your own growth. Don't ignore your own shortcomings. If you make a mistake, which you will, gain understanding and insight and compassion for yourself, and then make a change. Move on, and a little bit later you'll probably make another mistake. Step back, some compassion, and then move forward. And keep repeating that cycle. And that's an upward cycle rather than a downward cycle where you get caught and then you want to disassociate and get involved with either addictions or distractions. If you're not able to change yourself, you're not able to change anything else.
Beautiful, Michael. And in conclusion, do you have any words for anyone out there who may, masculine or feminine, who finds themselves in a karmic situation or bond that they're finding difficulty in releasing themselves from?
Certainly the first thing is to find someone to share with and to talk to. Whether that be a friend, sometimes actually a stranger can be easier to talk to, or somebody with spiritual guidance. Without being able to have somebody to help pull you back and see the framework and understanding, it's very difficult to pull yourself out of the hole. And back to my analogy of the room, you're going to be running around in the room, bump your head against the wall, hoping you can find the door. And this is a huge room. So without somebody to partner to help shine the flashlight and say, hey, no, the door is over this way. You still got to go do the work and go through. But without that understanding and awareness, you're kind of lost in direction.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Michael. I so appreciate you being so generous with your story and insight. I wish you the best. Really inspired by how far you've come. 18 years is a long time. So there's hope for those of you who find yourself in relationships or any sort of condition where you're feeling trapped, isolated, alone. You're not alone, and you have all the tools to really progress in a healthy direction and emerge whole. Thank you so much. This is Soulful Sessions. Please subscribe, hit that like button, and join the tribe. Please join us on Patreon, where we have more in-depth content. And if you'd like to have a Q&A session, or if you have any questions for him, just leave those comments down below, and we'll kind of take it from there. Thank you all again. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.
Color sky, horizon.